Hey, good morning. Sorry to be a minute or two late. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Excellent. Well, really, I'm just talking to Suzanne right now because she and I are the only two people brave enough to have our cameras on. So that's okay. Suzanne and I will have a brilliant chat. The rest of you can voyeuristically observe. There we go. Thank you, Anna and Donna, for turning your cameras on. How spectacular. All right, so we are in week 3. And I think I screwed it up. I think ultimately, I think when I left you guys last week, I said one page, and then when I was pushing it out via email and telling some of you who asked me over the weekend, I think I gave you a different page. So I think I actually, those of you who asked over the weekend, I think I pushed you to overachieve because we were supposed to only go into the 230s, but I think I told you into the 250s. So you're just ahead for next week. That's all, right? I don't know about the rest of you, but I kind of loved these 50 pages. There was just so much in here that I have read this book a million times, and I kept thinking, oh man, yeah, duh, oh yeah, duh. Oh right, oh my goodness, oh yeah, right. So hopefully you all got the same ahas and same benefit out of these pages as I know I did. And so let's begin by, what were your big ones? What were your ahas? Where do you want to start? Again, as always, this is your time to kind of delve into this material, and want to involve as many of you as possible. Marcel, good morning.
Good morning. I'm still behind, but I'm taking my time. I'm slow reader, so I'm really taking my time. What I find out is this book supposed to be on the table for me, and every morning it's like the blueprint to success, and review it every single day. Everything you need to do is in here. You just have to find a way to do it. And it is, I read it before, but I'm rereading it again. And Dana said it the other day. It looked like, or it was Debbie, I don't remember. You always find new things, and it's amazing. That's it.
Yeah. So we could kind of end there. Marcel just pretty much summed it up in a nutshell, right? There's like a mic drop moment from Marcel. Keep it on your kitchen table, read it with breakfast every morning, do the things that are in it. Done. It's so true, though. It is so true, right? What's fascinating is that every time I read another page in this book, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is not hard. It doesn't mean it's simple, but it's not a difficult business to scale, right? The ideas are quite simple. We have to just actually implement. Good morning, Donna Gilbert.
Good morning. And Marcel, I want to say thank you for that. You're absolutely right. And I think it was Debbie who said that this is a magical book, and I concurred with her. So you got us both. And because every time you read it, it's like Rick said, it's like, was that there before? I don't know. And I will tell you, it doesn't stop. Every time you read this book, and you should read it over and over again, because you're in a different place in your business. So this section that we read since the last time we were together, where it talks about the org chart and how much you're going to pay in salaries and what do you do, so I used to just like flip through that because that wasn't me. I don't need to know that. I'm not there, and yet I'm not there yet either as of this moment. And yet, but now all of a sudden, my mind is actually thinking about these concepts. So when I'm ready to implement them, I mean, at least if I've had a passing glance, I've chatted about them, I've heard what other people do in their business. So when you come back and read it, it's like, oh yeah, that's like what Jess Starr was talking about. Oh, that's what Jenny Wallach was talking about, and you have a reference point because it's all right here, every answer. And can I just say one more thing, Marcel, something that you said that I just want to kiss you on the forehead. You're my favorite. You said, I'm taking my time. Well, you are too, Tony. Okay. Yeah, everybody is my favorite. For different reasons at different times. I love you all. But here's what you said that really sung to my heart as like the reading rainbow person. You said, I'm taking my time with this book. Because some books, not every book, but some books you do have to take time with. It's not a race to the finish. It isn't that, sometimes I call it reading poker. That's my new expression. It's like, oh yeah, I read that last week. Did you read this one? Oh yeah, I read that one. Did you read this one? It's like one-upsmanship, and that's not the point of it. That really isn't. So thank you for saying, I'm taking my time with this. And that thank you.
Well, and to that point, it's if you're really utilizing it as a manual to assess and grow a business, taking your time is necessary. It's almost a requirement, right? Moving through it just to get through the pages doesn't allow you to say, huh, how can I use that, right? And that's the question, right? Donna made a really interesting point in that in previous passes through this book, you skip chunks, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, the whole budget thing, I don't love numbers, so I'm going to skip that. Oh, the whole leverage thing, the whole organizational model. Well, I'm a solo agent, so that clearly doesn't pertain to me. And yet what's fascinating is that it all pertains to every one of us, right? Because the concepts themselves, whether you're hiring someone to do a certain role or you're doing all the roles, conversation around what those roles need to be doing and how, based on a blueprint of growth and scale, still matters. And the idea of always putting the word yet at the end, right? Well, that's not relevant to me yet. When you put the word yet at the end, all of a sudden it's like, well, I should spend some time on that. And the last thing I'll say is this. Well, that's probably a lie. I will probably say something else between now and the end of the hour. However, to that point, the last thing I'll mention is remember that when you absorb this material, the questions that should go through your mind is, how can I make that relevant in my business today? Instead of judging it and just discarding it, saying that's not relevant for me today, that's not relevant for me yet, I challenge you to say, well, how can I use that concept, even if I'm not utilizing the people yet? How can I use that concept in my business today to help it grow, to help it scale? That's how I challenge myself. Where can this fit? What does it look like when that happens? So I'm ready. So I'm moving in that direction. Because when you start to move in a different direction, the decisions you make today will change. Kate and then Tony.
Sorry, struggling to find my unmute button. For me, it was, and maybe because it kind of felt like it went a little bit with Ignite last week, but this lead tracking, the conversion, the, setting the commitment to time that you block off to do the lead generation and not letting yourself get, always excellent customer service, but not letting yourself get bogged down in the things that you are doing in the moment and making sure that that stays as a priority. For me was just, that you have to, like with all those things, you have to protect your time. Your time is valuable and you have to make sure you're really checking in on what you're doing and the value it brings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the idea that there's no why in business, right? Because if there was a why, it would be busyness, BUSYNESS. Busyness and business are two separate concepts. And what Kate's talking about, at least what I heard Kate say, is that you have to spend your time properly, and the only way to do that is to monitor how you spend your time and track.
Yeah.
Right. The 220s is what Kate's referencing. To me, the 220s were the most powerful part of this section, in that it was all about how are we spending our time? What are we doing? How are we monitoring? What are we tracking? Are we then using the information that we're monitoring and tracking as a guide to helping us change our activities? Like how does what we track inform us to do something different, to get to a different / better place?
Yeah, because sorry if I chime in one more time, but because I remember even one of the gray boxes, I can't remember who said it, but someone was talking about like they did an ad in color versus black and white, and they had like a 28% higher return on that. And it's like, oh my gosh, I never even never even occurred to me to track I mean, not that I've done a lot of them, but to even track the difference, to see the outcome. Like that kind of just blew my mind. Like I have to look at it and from a much more business perspective in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, ROI becomes the barometer, right?
Yeah.
And again, how and spending your time will also become one of your barometers. Tony.
Do you ever have a situation where you like, I have a highlighter that I went through all of this reading and I highlighted what was important, and there was really just one sentence that I thought was the most important, and now I can't find it. And for all I know, it could be in my imagination, but the gist of it was that whatever you hire and whatever you build is going to be a reflection of you. And that was really humbling. I'll be honest, a lot of this was somewhat foreign to me in that I'm reading it and I'm just saying to myself, I am not here yet. Now, I did say yet, but one of the things that I do love about where I am affiliated now is that there's all these other things that, it's like rungs to a ladder. It's like, okay, if you're not ready for that, you can use this tool, and the tool that I've been and it's actually on my dream board, is the 6 personal perspectives. And I need to work on my self-mastery. I need to work on my 80-20, my E to P, and I need not that I'm ignoring this other stuff, but I honestly, I'm not there yet. But to Donna's point, it's out there. It's something to reach for. And in the meantime, I know that, self-mastery is probably my biggest thing right now. And I've been doing something new that's been working really well. So I'll share it. I have a morning ritual of spending about 20 minutes scribbling in my little journal and just kind of doing a mental dump. And the one thing that I've been doing it for not even a week now, but it's been very helpful, is I've been setting an intention for the day. And yesterday, what I do is I write the date down on the top of the page. And yesterday I wrote down January 23rd, and I got this horrible feeling. I'm like, I need activity. I am. And so, but the intention that I set, and it's working pretty well, is the intention was, I will recognize my fear, convert it to courage, and take effective action. And that's self-management, right? So, this is really good. I need to be humbled on a Monday. The good news is I had a great morning prospecting, and I'm just going to keep at it.
Yeah, brilliant. I love all of that. And I'm going to offer after Donna and Anna speak, I want to offer a perspective that I think I heard from Cody Gibson. I'm when I say it, some of you may say, "Oh, yes, that was Cody on something that Cody ran," but a different perspective about looking at some of the material that we covered and how to think about it when you are still a solo agent, how you might think about it differently so that it makes sense to you as a solo agent. I will circle back around to that. Donna, what do you have?
So Tony, I want to tell you that I just love what you said. And maybe you're not there yet, but dear, are you on your path? Just to be thinking like that, you're really on the way. But here's the other thing that I hope will bring comfort to people. Yeah, if you just started in this business and if you just picked up this book, you're not supposed to be there yet. It is a journey. There's learning involved. And every day you'll learn something new. And after a while, all of a sudden you'll look up and you go, oh my goodness, I just answered that question. Oh, that was a no-brainer. Yeah, look, I helped counsel somebody else. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to happen. You can do things that'll speed it up, but there is a learning curve here. Also on page 219, it's one of my favorite pages, especially I was in a different MREA group. I don't know, I've been in so many, I can't remember which, but a mega agent said, take that little box that's there on 120 put a big square around it. And at the top, the question for all of those things that are listed underneath are, am I willing to? And then they're all listed there. Concentrating particularly on number 1, number 6, and number 8. And if you just live there, that's a great place to start.
I love the take what's on 219 and put at the top, am I willing to, right? That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
That was Sam Nealon out of the Carolinas. She is an amazing coach
Indeed.
and agent.
I love it. I love it. Anna, did you have something?
Tony said that he likes to script, and I started to script a year ago from February 26th. And you know, Rick, when I joined KW a year ago, I didn't like numbers. I hated numbers. And now I love numbers so much. I even like printing reports and sending my clients, and numbers talks a lot. So it's changing. So basically 1 year ago, like almost, I started to scribe and scripting every morning from 5 a.m. till 5:15 and writing my goals. And this year I'm actually more practicing on that. And just what Tony said, that it's impacting me. It really is. It's I don't know. I lost my thoughts, but that's
No,
what
it's brilliant. I love that. I love that. And if your original question comes back, let me know. We'll pop you back on. The point I wanted to make, if you go to 193, right? What I find is that a lot of the places we start to lose people in this book is right around 193, because up until then, it's all about how am I building it? What am I building? The lead generation, economic model, the lead generation model. How am I communicating with my database, building the database, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden we get to 193 and it's like, wait a minute. Budgets, buyer specialists, seller, cost of sale, salaries, none of that has to do with me. And it kind of skids off the rails for a bit, right? So the first thing I want to mention to you, and this is not the Cody piece, but the first thing I want to mention to you is, remember that really all page 193 says, depending on where you are in your career, is run your business like a business and use a P&L. That's all 193 says. It doesn't matter if you don't have other people to pay. It doesn't, because you all have lead generation costs, right? You all have some kind of technology costs. You all pay for a phone. There are supplies. There's education. There's events that you go to. There's family reunion. There's your car. There's stuff that you use for business that cost you money. And so all I want you to recognize, and if you're into taking notes or writing in the book, if you're a writer, if you're a book writer, just write at the top there. This page equals use a P&L. Right, there it is. I love it. Right, because that's all it says. So you don't have to check out on this page, because the first thing it says to you is use a P&L. And if you're currently not utilizing a P&L, well, then you need page 193. Don't move off of it and decide it's not for you, right? Because again, as we've talked about, there's only one way to tell whether or not you're actually making a profit. Earning an income and making a profit in your business can be two different things. And so using that P&L helps you understand where you're at. The second idea that I want to share, again, which I believe did come from Cody Gibson, is the idea that, well, what if you just chose to run your business? If you're a single solo agent today, what if you chose to run your business financially as if you weren't, based on what it says on 193? Meaning, when you close a buyer, well, you have two roles. You are the CEO and owner of your company. You're also the buyer's agent. So a $10,000 commission comes in and there's a split, right? There's a 50-50 split between the owner of the business and the buyer's agent. What if you started to pay yourself that way? What if you decided that the business will earn $5,000 and the buyer's agent will earn $5,000? What if on the listing side, because when Gary talks about listing specialists, he talks about typically salary plus bonus, right? What if you determined that on the listing side of things, you were earning a salary and your salary was $50,000 a year to be the listing specialist? And you started to pay yourself from the list side a salary monthly, and you had a split with yourself on the buy side. If you were also the administrator, well, the administrator you could purchase, you could hire, might cost you $15 or $20 an hour. And so what if you started to pay yourself from the income you earn from as the business owner, that $15 or $20 an hour on the time you spend in administration? So you're building the structure financially of what the business is. You're just in all the roles right now. And at some point you'll replace yourself in one role, but the business will understand how financially that functions because the business has already been doing it. It's just been you in all the spots. Again, I'm pretty certain I heard Cody talk about that. And I think it's brilliant when you think about it, to start to train your brain and train your business for the next step of growth, even before you're at that next step of growth. Any thoughts or comments on that idea? Yeah, Donna.
So I'll go because I think that's brilliant. Here's the other thing. I'm kind of at a loss for words. This is how much it's impacting me, because this is kind of where I'm living in my head on this, because I started thinking about paying myself a salary. See, the other thing that it does, it also starts to make you understand what the value is for each one of those slots. So when you are ready to hire someone, or when you're deciding to do something or pay someone else to do it, you can make better decisions. But when I started thinking about the concept of paying myself a salary as the solo agent, as the rainmaker, as that person, it actually changes how my approach to going and looking for business. Because, I mean, the bottom line is I have to make payroll. I have to have the funds there to pay my employee, which happens to be me. Like Rick said, at this point, that's me. But as the CEO of my business, I've got to make sure that there is a payroll, there's money there to meet that payroll. It changes your thinking. It really does.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I will tell you quite transparently that when Debbie and I fused our businesses together in 2003, that next year together we did, I don't know, we did about 35 million or so that in 2003, that following after the merger of our businesses. And that was about a 30% increase over what we had each done solo. What's the point? The point I'm making is that year we also implemented, okay, well, what if we run this business like a business? And so we'll pay each other, we'll pay salaries to each other, and then there's the cost of actually running the business. And we chose purposefully to set a high salary number. We paid ourselves $10,000 a month, regardless, because what we knew was that would push us to achieve at or above our stated goals, because we had to meet payroll, right? And that was before we feathered in an assistant and other costs and whatnot. And so two things. The first is we knew that we needed to net, the business needed to net. So the business needed to gross at least $30,000 every single month in order to pay Debbie, pay me, pay our assistant, and pay the expenses to run the business. And we still kind of wanted to set some money aside, right? The minimum was $30,000 a month. Now, here's what's cool. When you start to set that as a non-negotiable, you start to behave as though it's non-negotiable. And 18 months later, when Keller Williams Realty came knocking on our door, and we stumbled into an opportunity to open our own brokerage, which neither one of us had ever thought was kind of in the cards for us. When that opportunity presented itself, we had 18 months worth of savings in the business, because the business itself kept the money and just paid us a salary. We didn't disperse everything into our personal accounts, because we all know what happens when you disperse it into your personal account, right? It very quickly vanishes. So we kept it in the business. And so when Keller Williams came knocking, we turned to each other and said, this is an awesome opportunity. Oh, and look, the money to do it is mostly sitting right there. I'm not sure how we would have figured out financially how to do what we did had that big chunk of money not been sitting there waiting for us. We would have figured it out somehow, but it certainly wouldn't have been as simple, because we just had to find out how to supplement a chunk of money instead of coming up with everything from scratch, from zero, right? So opportunity, that kind of idea about financially growing in that manner allows for business savings that then creates capital for opportunities when opportunities show up. And it doesn't have to be going up and opening your own brokerage. It can be, it's now November and I want to participate in the pie giveaway, and the money is there for the pies. Or, I want to do something at the holiday time for the top 10 raving fans. The money is there to do that with. So just a different way to think about it. Any thoughts or questions or comments about that? There's stuff going on in the chat. I don't have mine open. Hold on a second. Oh yes, or Donna says, something like family reunion, right? Now all of a sudden there's money there to get a plane ticket, even though the plane tickets are silly expensive to go to Orlando in February, right? The money is there to go ahead and do that, because you know that that's going to push you forward faster, right? By being there, by surrounding yourself with awesome people. DG.
And so I don't want to keep hogging all the space, but if nobody's going to say anything, I'm going to raise my hand. There come, and with this type of change in thinking, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, there comes a certain amount of angst also. Because now for me, it's become real. I mean, I could look at my business before and I knew if I was behind, it was like, yeah, I'm behind. Okay. And kind of moved on with my life. But now that I'm like living in these models, I will tell you publicly, I am behind for January. And I haven't slept really great the last 2 nights. And that is a total change for me. Total change. Now, everybody will eat that. It isn't that kind of a situation, but I want to be where I want to be at a certain point. And right now I'm not there. And so now the energy is like turned up. I want, it's not, someone posted this morning, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right now, I'm pretty uncomfortable with the fact that it is, close to it's almost February. And so am I making payroll? What am I going to do? What am I going to implement? Because again, the options are all right here. I know what I need to double down and do. And it means more work and more effort and more focus. And it means maybe saying no to something to make sure that I meet what I said I wanted to do.
Yeah. And what's so cool about what you just said, Donna, is that has nothing, like the market center didn't call you and say, you're behind on your goals. You better, like, I didn't call you and say, I'm not sure if you're asleep at the wheel, but you should be listing more, right? These are things that you decided for you that you want to achieve, that by holding yourself accountable to those intentions, you've moved yourself into a spot of, oh, I don't like where this is, so that you could then find the solutions and the activities that will drive the business forward faster to move you to a spot of comfort for at least a time being, right? Because business growth is always about, again, it's that counterbalancing. I'm comfortable, I'm uncomfortable, I'm comfortable, I'm uncomfortable, right? It's always that balance. but you did that for you based on what you want. Yes? Yeah.
And really like putting a stake in the sand and saying, you know, I'm going to meet these goals. These goals are for real. These goals are standards. These goals are non-negotiable. All the cliche things. I mean, it's finally happened to me. I'm finally like all in. It's like, this is for real, because I know, you know, we did the whole big why exercise, and I know 20 years out what I want it to look like. And so making those decisions, I can't go, well, February, I got 11 more months. No, I don't. I have right now is what I have.
That's all we all have, right? Is kind of right now. On page 225, Tim Wood, in one of the little blurbs at the top, the little gray blurbs, he says, my goals are fueled by my dreams. I defend and protect those dreams from distractions and from interruptions from other people, right? It's kind of what Donna's talking about, right? My goals are fueled by my dreams. My dreams are important to me. And so I build a fence around them. I build a moat around those kinds of things. And I push forward to make sure that I'm actually seeing the results based on where I want my life to go. Not because I'm in school and the teacher said this is what you have to do, right? You get to be your own teacher and drive your own self. Marcel.
I was thinking for myself, the model for netting $1 million. Even if you don't have big goals, you can think of netting 200 and just use the model and do whatever you need to do in order to reach your goal. And that will give you training for netting $1 million. Yeah. I also saw the number here. If you want to net $1 million, you needed 2.5 million in GCI. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, yes, but you make a brilliant point, right? It's the idea of using big models, even if you're not functioning or operating at the top tier. It's literally back. If you go all the way back, Marcel just gave us a brilliant conversation around page 80. All the way back from day one, page 80. It's using big models even when you are smaller. You just do the math to just divide. Like, be the $100,000 real estate agent first, and then be the $250,000 real estate agent, then be the $500,000 a year real estate agent, right? And if that's where you choose to stop, then you choose to stop there, and you have this business built on the same models that you can take further if you choose, but the model itself is the same. The numbers are just a little different. You just do some math, do a little division, right? Really brilliant point, Marcel. What else from what we read? Donna, you said 219, I think, right? So let's just spend a little time on 219, because a majority of what we read was the exposition of each of these points, right? And Donna said focus on number 1, number 6, and number 8. So let's just stay there a second. Are you willing to sustain a solid lead generation program that emphasizes marketing and consistently increases the number of leads? Are you willing to do that? And if you are, what's the plan? What's the system? Right? Are you willing to focus and list the minimum number of listings each month required? Right? It's a list side game. Are you willing to do that?
And you know, so, and when you're talking about your goals, your year-end goals, they've chunked down to what you're doing every day, what you're doing monthly, weekly, and every single day. And when you say that I want to make whatever number it is, it doesn't matter, and you chunk it back to how many listings that means. So was that a hope, or was that a strategy? Was that a standard? Was it, well, I got 1, so I'm okay? Yeah, no, yeah, you really have to, you have to marry yourselves to these. It's like my minimum is 3, And I could get 4, 5, 6, or 7, but a minimum is 3, and 3 is not 1. 3 is not 2. 3 is 3.
Well, it reminds me of, Jim Collins, who is the author of a number of books, one of them being a book called Good to Great. And in that book, Jim Collins says, good is the enemy of great, right? Good is the enemy of great. So you have to decide, right? The first time I read that, I thought, oh, well, that kind of takes the whole concept of the phrase good enough and throws it right out the window,
You
like
can
right
never
down the
say
trash
it again.
compactor.
Right. You can never say it again after you hear that. It's like, oh, it's good enough. Yeah, no, it's not.
Ooh, mamma mia. Right. And number 8, are you willing to consistently market the listings for more leads? Right. And that I think is where I want to take a pause for a minute, because I get asked the question a lot. Why the focus on listings, right? And we know the basic reasons why. Yes, they're leverageable. You can have more of them than you can buyers. Yes, you're more in control, especially in a market like today. It's better to be in control of the listing than be one of the 17 buyers throwing things at the listing agent, right? It's more marketing exposure. It's more of a lot of different things. But I think the main business growth reason for a list side focus is number 8 on that page, because listings allow you to scale and grow by bringing more leads when done correctly, right? Buyers, you have to wait 5 or 7 or 10 years for them to decide to sell again, right? Listings kind of automatically bring that +1. If you take 5 listings this year, you should kind of automatically, without blinking an eye, have 10 sales. The 5 listings that you listed and 5 more buyers or sellers from those listings. That's without any other forms of lead generation. So if you're looking for the secret sauce of what, did you ever look at an agent's business that's killing it, and it looks like they just have leads falling from the sky? I don't understand how they do that. And if you don't have that, it's irritating, right? You're like, okay, nice for you. Why is it pouring on them? And I'm in the desert here. It's dry. Nothing's coming from the sky. I can tell you it's not luck, and it has nothing to do with anything but, right? I'll use Jeannie and Todd as an example. They closed $103 million worth of real estate this past year. But that came with like 79 or 82, I have to look at my notes to get the exact number, listings. That's a lot of listings. And when you focus entirely on finding those listings, guess what? All the buyers start to show up. How do they feed the buyer's agents that do all their buyer work for them? They list. That's how they do it. So if you're looking for the secret, there it is. Go and list, and everything else starts to grow from that.
I want to add something to what you said, Rick, about focusing on listing. It is all about mindset. Everybody knows that. And because of Dana, I'm joining the Pivot Shift Ahead group every morning. And without even me knowing it, my mind starts shifting toward listing. And I was more sending out marketing material toward listing, talking to people toward listing. I was being kind of lazy showing homes. But last year, for now, the listing I had from the day I reset to today is more than what I did last year. So it starts by the mindset and then focus on the work.
Yeah. Mind share, then market share, always in that order. And sometimes you have to capture your own mind share, right? You have to capture mind share by having more positive mindset than perhaps you did yesterday. And so you're changing your own head, and then it turns into market share. Always in that order. You don't ever manifest anything into your life or into your business that you haven't first decided in your head. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Staying on 219, here's another thought I have for you, because again, I want to make sure that we're making the content in these pages as relevant to you as possible, knowing full well that it's easy to dismiss a lot of these pages, right? Because it's about leverage and people and budgets. And part of the reason I know that is because the first couple of times I read this book, I did the same thing. Like I even had a small team that I was working with. I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me yet. I was, move on forward, right? But if you look at numbers 9 through 13, the leverage piece of it, and then add 14, the money piece of it, what if you decided that number 9 said, are you willing to make the time and learn and implement a system to find good talent, starting with myself, right? RTCK stands for recruit, train, consult, and keep. And all that is it's a system, right? It's a system. We used to teach the RTCK, and then we moved it to a different system, and now we're back to a version of it called career visioning, right? But what if you decided that you were going to take the time to learn and implement a system to find really talented people, starting with the person that runs your business today? And what I mean by that is, look at number 10. When you understand the difference between hiring capacity talent and cul-de-sac talent as the CEO of your own business, are you looking at the employee you and saying, okay, so am I exhibiting capacity talent in my role, or am I exhibiting cul-de-sac talent in my role, right? As the person who wears 2 hats or 3 or 7 hats, but one of them being the CEO, you can't dismiss these questions. You have to look and decide whether or not that other person in your business is doing the things that need to be done, capacity versus cul-de-sac talent. Are you looking at number 11? Are you achieving accountability to the right standards, not holding someone else accountable to the right standards, but starting with you? Are you holding yourself? So my point is, we could take each of these leverage lessons and take the focus off of other people and turn them right back on us, make it about looking in the mirror, and really have some powerful ahas from asking ourselves those questions or pertaining them to us. Donna, and then Tony. Oh, did you not have a hand?
Let Tony go.
Tony.
It sort of gets back to the quote that I thought I highlighted, and that it reading through this, really was like putting a mirror up to myself, and got me thinking about, okay, so I have a team, and then somewhere along the way, pretty quickly after that, the question was, would I follow me? It's just
True.
it's I don't have ahas with this book. I have oh craps. So I don't have any of this figured out. But it's for me right now, if I can get number 1 through 8 squared away, then 9 through 16 will, I think, fall into place. But that's all.
100%. Yeah, and just by the way, oh craps are ahas. They're just cleverly disguised. They're the ahas that hit you really hard, like, oh, ow, oh crap, right? What else? Anything else from that idea? Yes, ma'am. Down.
I'll just add one thing when we were back to why listings. Listings, having the listings, especially in a market like this, you get to be the person who's controlling the ship. You get to be the employer, not the employee. You'll also get first crack at selling those listings to your buyer clients. And as Rick said, when you do have listings, the buyers just show up. You don't have to really go out and get them, especially in this market. They are looking for you. And in a market like today, when things are just flying off the shelf, you feel like, I don't even have time to have an open house or get my postcards out or anything. You just have to figure out, so what could I do differently? That's what I did in that market. But in this market, what are the opportunities for me to market, at least take advantage of the fact that I have this listing or had this listing in this area? What can I do? It's a change in thinking. There's one group that suggested that, they take around a welcome to the neighborhood card where you go to all the neighbors and say, do you know that house changed hands and the new family's moved in? Would you sign a card for them? And could you put your phone number? And there are other things that you have to do, but listings still give you such a great advantage.
Yeah, brilliant. And we're going to spend time for cappers today at 1, for everybody else tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We're going to spend most of that hour in our masterminds this month really going through, okay, let's brainstorm, what are the other ideas, right? It's not just about who's doing what and who's having success and sharing that. It's about, right, let's stare at one another and think, okay, what else could we do? Oh, so if we brought a card, that might give somebody else an idea. Oh, well, what if we did it this way? Oh, and then you could digitize it, and then you could capture the, and what if we did, right? That's my plan for this week's mastermind, so that we really are focused on creating activities that will drive listings for each of us. So do participate. I have to say that the 220s into the 230s of this book this time for me reinforced something so simple and yet so powerful. And that is the concepts themselves are as basic as they come. They're as basic as they come. There is not a soul within the sound of my voice who can't achieve at high levels inside of this industry, because the concepts themselves are so simple. They are basic concepts. The challenge that each one of us brings is how do we show up? How are we thinking about these concepts? And are we implementing? And then are we implementing consistently, right? The idea that you have to wake up and have a plan in place to generate leads, to grow and run a business, like, that shouldn't be a big shocker for anybody, right? It doesn't matter what business you're in. The fact that you need to track and then learn from what you're tracking and make adjustments shouldn't be a big shocker. The fact that we're focused on listings because because of all the things we've talked about today shouldn't be a shocker. The fact that we're going to squeeze the orange of every listing to get more business from that listing shouldn't be a shocker. And yet sometimes we show up and we decide that we're gonna do it differently or better somehow, right? Than just kind of doing the simple stuff. It's kind of like, it's like being a surgeon and needing to operate on somebody's foot and deciding that, you know what, I could just go right to the foot and operate. But I think I want to figure out, how do I do this operation and get to the foot via this person's mouth? Let me see how I can figure that out. Okay, that's the wrong way, everybody. You might eventually get there down to the foot, but man, oh man, look what you're doing in the meantime. You're kind of creating chaos and pain that's unnecessary. Just go to the foot. Maybe that was a dumb example, but it was the first one that came to my mind, right? Now I'm kind of cringing about having surgery on my foot through my mouth. It's kind of gross. Okay, Donna, and then Tony.
So yeah, so 220 and 221, it's all about, and again, this is the concept that's been going around forever. Nothing about this is new. And yet, becoming obsessed with being consistent. I mean, just get the process. We talked about this on the morning call, Marcel, you were there, a few other people were there. We talked about just having a process can bring the focus. The focus gives you the process. If you just live in that. And I think Rick just said, you know, to have a plan for the day, and don't necessarily set it that morning. Let's do that on Sunday. Let's do it for the whole week. And let's just stay in that. Let's not change it up all the time. I was on something where they were talking about how to protect your, I think it was one of the connects at 1 o'clock. And they said, when you're setting your schedule and your calendar, don't put anything in that morning time when you're supposed to be lead generating. Don't put anything in that schedule that you're not going to do every single day. So that means like building inspections don't go there. I mean, it's just so many things just don't go there, because that is just a repeatable process. You get up in the morning, I turn on the early birds, then the show call, then I'm script and role play, then I'm on our morning meeting, and then boom, I hit the phones. I don't think about that anymore. I tell you, Saturday and Sunday's a little ooky for me, because it's like, I don't have, what do you mean? We get to like watch TV and have an extra cup of coffee? I don't know. It feels so weird now, because that has just become the process. And there are people around you who are joining you that we're all in the same mindset. You need that. I call it my jet fuel. It's what springs me through the rest of the day and for the rest of the week.
66 days. It takes 66 days to create a habit. Right. So on day 66 or 67, guess what? It starts to feel weird if you're not doing it. So just remember, based on what Donna just said, if you're looking to create a new habit, it doesn't happen in a week. That's the part you have to. I know every time I'm looking to lose a little bit of weight, the first 2 weeks that I make changes in my diet, those are the hardest 2 weeks for me. And if I can get through those 14 days, day 15, you could plop down donuts and ice cream in front of me when I'm not interested anymore. Day 12 or 13, I have to work at it, right? It's literally, for me, it's 14 days. And so clearly my body craves what it craves for those 14 days. And then after that, I don't. And then I literally have control over in my head to not eat or not do the things that I choose not to do. The same thing happens when you create a system, a repeatable system, or create a habit inside of your business. It becomes something that it's hard not to do. And in the beginning, expect it to feel hard to do till you get past that point. That's the point I'm looking to make. Tony.
So this is Keller Williams is my third brokerage. And I've said this to a number of people that I may have even said it here, that this is the first place where I feel like I can learn to get out of my own way. And so much of it breaks down to getting in my head, and anything that I can do to get out of my head, like we did videos, 7 videos, and that was a wonderful opportunity to get out of your head, because in order to make a video, you had to get beyond how am I going to look, how am I going to sound, I'm going to be an idiot, blah 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 blah. And you know, things like this book are an opportunity for me to get out of my head, because I'm reminded that just about anything, and I said this before, just about anything worthwhile in my life, I've had to focus on the numbers. You know, my grade point average, my salary, my rent, my mortgage, you know, how much to save for the first house, and, you know, anything worthwhile. And so, you know, this morning, you know, look, making phone calls isn't easy for me. I've been picking up the phone and calling people and strangers longer than I'm going to even admit here. It's never gotten easier, but I thought about what I need to do. I thought about numbers that I need to attain. And I just think we have to hold on to that. And I actually loved that that Donna had the guts to say, I'm scared. I mean, you know, we're all scared. I mean, that's why we're here. You know, I wish I had memorized you know, the speech from Henry V, where Henry V does the band of brothers thing. I mean, you bleed with me, we band of brothers. You know, we're all in this together. You know, I just if we choose to be, and it's more fun that way. So you know, for me, it's always getting in my head, and the enemy is getting in my head, and anything I can do to get out of my head. And we have models here, so I'm preaching. That's all.
Well said, Father Tony. And you know what? And then Anna's going to bring us home. I'm going to make one comment about that.
Yeah, what Donna said regarding just have predictable schedule. Like, for example, for today, for me, it was fascinating how brain works fast and find the way how to leverage. So I had a phone call from client and he asked me to come and pick up some stuff. And I didn't want to miss MREA, the book club. So I was thinking like how I can make it. And I found a solution. So I sent him to bring to me. And, you know, but I wouldn't do that if I didn't have that schedule. And I know that I want to do, and I need it. And it's necessarily for my business. So, yeah.
Brilliant when you can say, you know what, I would love to do that for you. However, I have an appointment. Anyway, you can bring that to me. And guess what? They say, yeah, sure, I'm actually going to be driving past that anyway. That's not a problem. And that, right, you don't concede your own schedule before you even ask whether or not there's a different path. That's a brilliant brilliant aha, and a great shift in how we can continue to take more control of our time, right?
And same with agents, other agents. So today we have a appraiser, but he said like, I am available, I'm coming. I said, do you need me? He said, no. I said, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We can do my.
You don't have to freak out like, oh my God, how will that appraisal ever happen if I'm not there? Guess what? It'll happen simply. It'll happen just fine. Everything will go off without a hitch. You get to text somebody and say, hey, did it happen? Ba-boom, da-done, right? It becomes, and I don't say this, I mean, maybe for some comic relief, but I say this in all sincerity with perhaps some comic relief. At some point, you start to look around and say, you know what? I have people for that. I can utilize others. Remember, no one succeeds alone. And so finding a path, utilize others, especially when they're willing and able, because they're a part of the whole process. It's not about you doing every single thing, every single day, every single time, right? That's the germ of leverage. And what's fascinating is that the real success is when you learn to succeed through other people. That's when you know you're achieving at a really high level, when you are achieving and you're achieving through other people. That's the real lift, right? So here's how I'll close. First, I'll give you the rest. The rest is the rest for next week. Just bring it home to 311. Take a look at some of the role models that they interviewed. We can chat about some of the people in there. Just so to where did we stop? We stopped at well, it's the rest. So if you stopped in the 230s, it's 230s to 311. If you stopped in the 250s, it's through 311. Wherever you are, it's through 311. And so let me close by saying this. Tony made an interesting point, and I believe there's a reason why his point is valid. And the point he made is, this is kind of the first place I've been where I feel like I can kind of get out of my own way. And the underlying reason for all of that, yes, it's about coaching and consulting. Yes, it's about understanding or being in business with people who understand things at a cool level and can kind of walk you through some of that. It's about having tools like this book that help us kind of sort through things in our heads. It's about having a model. It's about having role models and paying attention to them. It's all of those things. However, I think the underlying factor about what makes this organization so special, and I'll speak personally, is that the people who make up this organization, because we're not just a business, we are a business family. That brings a level of care into the conversation, right? The people that we're in business with, people I look around and think to myself, all right, these people care about my success, right? I hope you feel from me that I care about your success. And when you care enough about someone's success, you're willing to say things that just business colleagues are not willing to say to each other. You're not willing to say, you know, I wouldn't be willing to say in an Ignite session, you know what, Tony, that's you way overthinking it again. Go and read that soundtracks book again, right? Because I'd be so afraid that Tony would take it personally and he'd be upset with me, and then he wants to leave because I called him out in front of a whole thing. Tony knows he's an overthinker. He said it out loud. And he said it out loud because of the environment that we create to help people kind of grow. And that all starts from being in business with a family of people that care. And maybe that sounds corny, but I think that at the end of the day, these foundational principles sit on top of an organization from Gary Keller through all 180,000 across the globe that just care about each other. And when you care about each other, it just makes a difference. And it allows more growth because it comes from a place of sincerity. With that, guys, thanks for being here. I have fun with you every week. I can't wait to do this next week. And then here's what's fun. Next week, we'll also decide together with the next book, right? We'll start the next book likely right after Family Reunion. We'll take a short little break. Right after Family Reunion, we'll come back with the next book. And it'll be the people who are here in this room next Monday who get to decide which direction we go in. Fun, fun, fun. All right, guys, have a fun one. Cappers, I'll see you at 1 o'clock.